If you think that great tasting Japanese green tea is too expensive, I may have the perfect tea for you. It's called Bancha, and it's actually the second most popular type of green tea in Japan. It has a great flavor, low caffeine content, and it's a mere fraction of the price compared to other Japanese green teas. In this video, we're going to explain what Japanese Bancha is, how it's made, and we're going to brew up some to compare it with a tea like sencha. First, it's important to mention that depending on how a tea is picked and when a tea is picked, it can take on a variety of different flavors. The premium sencha in Japan is made from the top 3 sprouts of the tea plant and the first tea harvest. Because the tea plant has had all winter long to store up nutrients in the soil, the fresh springtime sprouts are bursting with flavor. This is one of the reasons why sencha teas have such a strong flavor profile, why they're loaded with nutrients and health benefits, and also why they command such a high price. But these tea plants are not done producing delicious green tea. They will sprout 2 to 3 more times throughout the year, and they can be harvested accordingly. If the tea is made from the 3rd or 4th tea harvest, which normally occurs from midsummer to even mid-fall, it will be considered a bancha. These leaves won't have the same sweet or umami taste that you would get from a sencha, but they will still be packed with flavor. Also, if a tea is made from the more mature leaves of the tea plant, it will be considered a bancha as well. These leaves are lower down on the tea plant, and they are actually thicker and tougher. The reason they contain less caffeine than the younger leaves of the tea plant actually has to do with insects. But before we get to that, if you're enjoying this video so far, it would really mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to our channel so you can learn more about all the other types of Japanese green teas. So the tea plant produces a layer of caffeine around its leaves in order to protect them from insects. Caffeine is extremely bitter and even poisonous to some insects, so it makes a good protective coating. Because the younger leaves are more tender and vulnerable to insects, they produce more caffeine. The older leaves and stems of the tea plant are tougher, so they don't need to produce as much caffeine, making teas like Bancha, Genmaicha, Kukicha, and Hojicha lower caffeine options. After the older leaves are harvested, they are processed just like a sencha. They are steamed, rolled, and dried. In Kyoto, after the Bancha tea leaves are dried, the tea can be roasted in a pan at a high heat in order to produce kyo bancha, a slightly burnt bancha tea that has a smoky flavor. But let's go back to the steaming. The reason green teas are steamed is to deactivate the enzymes that cause oxidation. If the tea leaves are not heated almost immediately after harvest, they will begin to oxidize and eventually turn into a black tea. With the steaming method, the farmer is able to lock in the more grassy or vegetal flavors of the tea. This is why Japanese green teas like sencha have this distinct jade green color and a strong steamed vegetable flavor. If you want to see this in action, a great tea to try is the Murasaki Sencha from Mr. Kawaji in Kagoshima. But Bancha is completely different. Even though it's made in a similar way, the flavor profile is a bit more subtle. Instead of having the strong, steamed vegetable flavors, you get a mild, citrusy flavor profile, a hint of popcorn or cereal, and maybe even a touch of wood. You also get a translucent, pale yellow color. Because Japanese Bancha tea is made from later harvests and older leaves, it's also lower in catechins, the main antioxidant in green tea. Catechins are credited with a lot of the health benefits of green tea, but they are also what produces the bitter flavor in the tea. Catechins are harder to extract, and they really require higher temperatures and longer brewing times. This is why when you brew your green tea too hot, you end up with a very bitter cup of tea. Because the Bancha tea leaves are lower in catechins, they stand up to higher temperatures. For this reason, we recommend you brew Bancha tea at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, instead of the 140 to 160 we normally recommend for gyokuro or sencha. You can still use the same 1-minute brewing time and a leaf to water ratio of 5 grams of leaves and 150 milliliters of water. Now let's make up a cup of Bancha tea and see how it compares to sencha. The Bancha we will be using is the best Bancha tea we found after meeting with dozens of different farmers around Japan. This one comes to us from Mr. Masuda from Shizuoka, and although it's very low in price, it still has a great flavor and it's produced without the use of pesticides or chemicals. Compared to sencha, the Bancha has much more minerality. Even though the older leaves and stems are lower in antioxidants, they are actually higher in minerals. This minerality can be felt as a tingling sensation on the palate. It also makes the tea good for digestion, and it's why in Japan, sometimes people will drink Bancha after a meal to soothe the stomach and help with digestion. The more mature leaves also produce a slightly earthier flavor profile. The sencha is light, fresh, and sweet, while the Bancha tea has more wood, cereal, and astringent notes to it. The flavor of this Japanese Bancha pairs very well with snacks, and because it can also help with digestion, it makes for a great snacking tea. So if you want these smoother and sweeter flavor profiles with a hint of that green edamame or seaweed, you should go for a sencha tea or gyokuro tea. If you want to save money and try a unique flavor profile, you can try the Bancha from Mr. Masuda at neoteas.com. This tea is also lower in caffeine, so you can drink it later on in the day without being kept up all night. Hopefully now, Japanese Bancha makes a little bit more sense to you. If you want to learn more about Japanese green tea, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more tea videos in the future. Until then, we'll see you next time.